We are live. We are live. Let's just turn on Instagram. That should be live. Oh yeah, we rocking. We rocking. Sorry, give me a second while we set this computer up. Welcome to Wine and Wine Not. I am your host Mozel Watson. I'm gonna throw it back on. Just give me a quick second while I set up the Instagram feed for everyone. Bear with me. I mean, I could keep talking. I don't want to keep rambling. But so what I'm drinking tonight is Holic, a Shiraz Cabernet, imported by Wine God Imports. Shout out to the good people over there, what they're doing. And as like I said, as I get this situated, I will continue to talk and ramble. If you haven't already, though, subscribe to our Patreon. It's the first one up. Subscribe to our Patreon. Patreon. It says we're live. I'm not sure. Are we live? Are we live on Instagram? Everything good? Okay, boo. Oh, hey. One God in the flesh again. I'm sorry. We going live. First time we doing it. That's how you figure it out. So today, we're here to talk about this show, Wine and Why Not. But before we get into the show, I must tell you who I am and how did I get here and how did we start. So, yes, I said my name is Mozel Watson, born and raised in Harlem, New York. Uh, 1988, which was a great year. I believe the greatest year of all time. And that's where I started. That's where I was born at. I always lived in Harlem for most of my life, all of my life, until I was adult. DJ, can you give me a second? Turn the music down 1 second, just fun. Until I was just about adult. Then I lived in Virginia for a couple of months, and then as a teen, my first job was working at McDonald's. I was 16, turning 17. I didn't really want to give me too many hours because of that child labor laws. But I worked at McDonald's and I loved it. I enjoyed it. And one thing about working there, it taught me like discipline and how to make my own money, how I felt to make my own money. And while working at McDonald's, there was a gentleman, I can't remember his name right now, but the burger guy, and I hate that I refer to you as the burger guy, but he was working on the burger. I'm calling him a chef, the McDonald's burger chef. He got a job at White Castle. He was in before I guess he was in the transition phase. He was like, "Yo, they're paying $10 to work at White Castle." So at the time when I was working at McDonald's, it was $6.75 an hour, which is eons ago, half of what you guys are making today as far as minimum wage. So I was like, "Yo, why not? I would love to do the same thing and work at White Castle. What's the difference?" So working at White Castles now, I was there to be overnight. And if you know me, you know I have a bedtime. I can't stay up past 9 o'clock. So it was a struggle to try to work overnight and stay up all day, be outside, be living my life. So and that while doing that, one day I'm putting the patties well, again. So if you never worked at White Castle's, White Castle doesn't use a grill. They use like a hot plate, and you what you do is you get it's a bucket of water and onions, chopped onions, and you take the bucket of water, chopped onions, you put it on the hot plate, and it heats up and it sizzles, and then you get this box onto your left. It's like 1,000 little square patties, super super thin, and you grab them and you put them on 30 at a time, and then you get the buns, pause, and you put the buns on top, or if it's cheese, whatever, you put the cheese on top, pickles, and but you'll make 30 burgers in about a minute and a half. And one night I'm there working overnight. I'm putting the patties on the grill, but I'm falling asleep. So I'm doing one of those, my fear was that I was going to fall and fuck my face up. So I was like, I can't do this. So the manager let me sleep in the corner for the rest of my shift. The next day, I walked from 38th Street and 8th Avenue. That's where the White Castle was, uptown, in search of a job. And I just would go into random stores. Hey, are you hiring? Hey, are you hiring? Still in my White Castle's khakis, White Castle's blue button up, and my apron on because it was winter time. It was kind of cold. And I walk into 67 Wine and Spirits. I had an inside scoop that they were hiring, but no one told me like, yo, come through, like yo. But the guy that was there, Damien, he was like, yo, they're hiring. You should. My job is hiring. So I walk in this day, and the owner, Bernie Weiser, is yelling down the stairs. So if you've never been to 67 Wine and Spirits, it's a two-story wine store. One, the number one wine store in New York City, but one of the grandfathered in has been around since 1978. And it's a two-story wine store, one of the few that you see where it goes upstairs. And Bernie is standing on the top of the stairs, and he's yelling down at Evelyn, telling her how she's messing up the store and they don't have enough delivery people, and he just storms upstairs, and she's looking up, she turns around, I walk up, and I was like, are you, by any chance, are you guys hiring? And she was like, yes, absolutely. What's your name? Uh, when can you start? And I was like, right now. And she was like, well, Rogers. Rogers was the like accountant or HR. She calls Rogers to come downstairs. I go up to see Rogers. Rogers like, fill out the, forms, and then pretty much a W-4 application. Filled out the application, and then he told me to go in the basement. In the basement, I met Jivy, who's a good friend to this day. I met Jivy in the basement, and Jimmy told me to just break boxes. So my first day in the wine industry officially, I worked in my White Castle's uniform, just breaking wine boxes, and that was my first day. Fast forward, now I work there. Let's say a couple of months. I'm 17, 18, trying to just work there, and the job of a delivery and stock person was to break down the boxes, stock the basement, stock the store, do deliveries, come back to the store, clean up the basement, like keep the basement organized. And being that my friends were there, Damien, Ray, Tori, we were in there. We were going crazy at first. We were just by going crazy. We were just living, being in the store, doing deliveries, joking on each other. We had like a whole basement war at some point. Like we teamed up 2-on-2, not fucking with each other, throwing paper at each other. Again, we had a lot of time and fun in the basement. As crazy as that sounds, we had a lot of fun in the basement. I got promoted to the shipping department because I was the only one that would come back from delivery on time. So in my mind, when we get called for a delivery, I'm gonna take the delivery and come back to the store. While I'm outside, everybody else would just hang out and they would just like live and go to the store, go to the deli, go to the halal stand. They'll live. I'll always come back. And the job took that as me being hardworking and determined. It was like, oh, actually, we don't want you doing deliveries no more. We want you shipping people, out, shipping orders out. And Charlie, Charlie was a gentleman who worked in the store way before me. He was when I worked in the store, I was 18. Charlie had to be like 63, 64. But at the time, I didn't know how long Charlie worked at the store. And Charlie was a big influence on me in the store. He helped me navigate, knowing where the boxes were, where the bottles were. So when I got promoted to the shipping department, he was Charlie was always an instigator. He was like, "See, boy, they fucking you up now. They got you doing this bullshit. You better learn your shit." So where the shipping department was in 67 is in the back of the store. And if I'm in the back of the store facing this way, to coming down, this is an aisle. This whole row is refrigerators, and that whole row was white wine. And this was how my wine interest started, or how I got in trouble for wine. I love the fact, now that I'm on the floor, I seen the sales reps, I seen how they interact, I seen how they dress, I seen how they sold wine. I fell in love with that, like their style, their swagger, the way they made people spend money, the knowledge that they had, the elegance that they talked about wine, and each and every sales rep, I'm talking about the people that worked in the store, treated wine like it was their part of their lifestyle. And being from Harlem, working at 67 Wine Shop, which is on 68th and Columbus, I never seen an open liquor store, alcohol store. I only saw bulletproof stores. Growing up in Harlem, all the shit was bulletproof. So it was like, yo, what's the difference, right? But it was like, this is a class, this is a swagger, the way they dress. And, being back here by the wall, I will have to call the sales reps. Hey, someone come back there, can you recommend the white wine? I have to be like, oh no, that's not my job. Yo, Oscar, yo, Ben, can you help? Can you help? They're busy though. They're on the floor doing their thing. So I got tired of calling them and asking them. So I just started to recommend wine. I was just like, yo, Hess Select Chardonnay. I heard it was good. And then somebody would just buy it. And I was like, oh, this shit is easy. But that was the only wine I could pronounce. Chardonnay, Hess Select. And I would recommend that wine repeatedly every day to anybody that walked past me. Hessel Chardonnay, Hessel Chardonnay, Hessel Chardonnay. One day, Bernie Weiser heard me get like 8 Hessel Chardonnays off, and then he called me in his office. I go to his office, and he's like, Mozel, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, I'm shipping packages. I'm not even talking about wine sales because again, I'm 18, 19. I'm still young. I didn't know I was supposed to be technically working here. Legally, you can if you're 18. You can work in an alcoholic establishment as long as you don't drink the alcohol. You're under supervision. So you could be a cashier. You could be work in the shipping department. You could work in HR, but you can't be front facing. You can even pour alcohol, which is crazy enough. That's a fun fact. So Bernie curses me out, and he calls in Robin, and he demands that Robin go across the street to Barnes and Noble and buy me Windows on the World by Kevin Zarelli. Buy me the book. So she goes over there, she does it. He's talking to me now, like, listen, it's a good opportunity in front of you. Just continue to focus on your work. Don't have no children. If you want to if you feel like the urge, go to the bathroom, jerk off. I don't know why. At some point, like they thought I was I don't know. I was living. I was having a good time. I was living my life because they had to control me. Now, shout out to Bernie for that. They had to control me, and so I didn't. So I got the book from Robin, and I focused on like being reading the book. So now, not only did I understand wine from reading the book by Kevin Zarelli, I understood like grapes in general, and without drinking legally, without drinking, I was doing all this selling wine. Now that I can, when I recommended the Hess Select Chardonnay, I would break it down between green apple and pears. Unless you want, if it's from California, it has a little more oak influence. If it's from France, it has less oak influence. You look for more pineapple ripeness to it, right? So I have words to fit the knowledge now without tasting none of this shit. And that was 67. I worked at 67 for 4 years, not consecutively. 2 years I worked, and then I quit to try to model. And I auditioned for BET Rip the Runway. I did a few shows. Shout out to my man Bobby. Shout out to my man Bobby for putting me on to my first fashion show. I modeled in the church. It was dope. And then I came back to 67 because the modeling industry wasn't what I thought it was. A little different. It was something I wasn't ready for at all. Still not to the day. I'll never do it again. But it was. I went back to the wine, and then I did my second tour at 67, and it was from there that I needed more. So at 67, I was like, you know what? I want to put my own wine shop in my neighborhood. I see nothing. People could touch the bottles here. I want to do that. And then I left 67 to work at Rosetta Wine and Spirits down on Wall Street with Sherman Peters. And shout out to Sherman. He gave me the opportunity to be a buyer for the first time. Like I actually bought and had a voice for a neighborhood or a style or a program in front of me. Someone gave me the opportunity to say, hey, I'm gonna go away from the store. You buy these wines, make some money. Let's see if we make some money. But a large part of it is on you, right? You got to do it. And I was able to understand the craft of what it was to taste the wine with the knowledge I got from the book I read, to selling the wine, to selling the wine not only to the customer, but to myself when I buy it. I have to understand how the reps are going to try to talk to me in a different manner. And from 67 to Rosetta, now to like Bronx Spirits. I worked in the Bronx Spirits, and I call that my dark days. I left Wall Street and went to the Bronx, and all I did was sell Ciroc and fucking. Sorry, stop cursing. Ciroc and Hennessy. So that's how I told you I was gonna be raw, filthy, and uncut. We're gonna bleep it out, but it's live. So to children, go to bed, please, please. And I promise it's the last curse, hopefully. So I worked at Bronx Spirits, and I called it my dark days because it was. I felt like I went from selling wine to just liquor, and not being able to uh, educate the people. Like people were just coming in already fixated on what they want because it was a liquor store. So when I say liquor store and I talk about wine shop, you got to look at the inventory, what's front facing to you. A lot of times when you walk into a store, if you see 75%, 80% of the inventory liquor, then it's a liquor store, and the vice versa if it's wine. There's some places that have mix and matches or big inventory of both. However, you can find that with a liquor store and a wine shop is by just paying attention to the inventory. So When I worked in the liquor store, I wasn't really satisfied. But what I got from that was like I need to teach my people what they're drinking. A lot of this stuff. Caught myself. A lot of this stuff is basura, it's how can I connect to my people? And it was like, yo, I gotta just I have to put a store. I have to create my own store. And then from Bronx Spirits, shout out to Ron Cal. I worked no sorry before I get to Ron Cal. Shout out to Pedro. I worked at Bronx Spirits, not Bronx Spirits, Brooklyn Wine Exchange. I was another buyer there. So now my position in the wine industry changed, right? You go from being a stock person to working in the shipping department to being a manager buyer on Wall Street to being the buyer in the Bronx to now being the buyer again in Brooklyn. So I am moving around with a different level of knowledge. I understand this wine game. I read this book. I'm actively in the field changing communities' palates by supplying them with wine to drink because I'm the buyer here. And all my stores were successful. I see my stores under my tenure, and I'm able to Brooklyn Wine Exchange. And Brooklyn Wine Exchange was fun. I don't really dabble to Brooklyn. No, I'm from Harlem, so we don't really just run down to Brooklyn. It was so for me to even go that way was a trek, and it was fun. It was a learning experience. I tried to sell as much wine as possible. It's a massive store. They're still there. They're on Vanderbilt Avenue, Vanderbilt Avenue. They're on Vanderbilt Avenue. It's a massive store, but we worked. And what I learned from that store, though, it wasn't about the inventory. It wasn't about uh, the look of the store. It was about the people selling the wine. And if the people selling the wine wasn't having a good time or being approachable, the experience is trash. People wouldn't come there. So I love. Shout out to Steve from Green Hook Ginsmith. He pulled up. Shout out to Green Hook Ginsmith if you haven't tried it. But Steve pulled up one day because I was buying this gin. And he was like, "Man, you gotta get out of here. I know somebody who needs your help over in Red Hook. If you don't mind going to Red Hook, I know they need your help." And I go to Dry Dock. Shout out to Ron Cal again. Shout out to Steve, and he put me on the Dry Dock. And in Dry Dock, I was a buyer, but more collaborative. Ron is an amazing mind. He's more of an architect, and he wanted to uh, paint his store a certain way. And me, I wanted to show off my wine knowledge. So we clashed at times, and I'm that type of person where then I didn't understand it, but now I definitely know I don't work good price with over not overhead, but with authority. Me and authority, we do that. I would say I'm probably the biggest or the most anti-industry person, right? Because the authority of it. So me and Ron would clash, whether we collaborated and made some dope stuff. And, the store's still there today. Always shout out to them. Left that store, and in that store actually, I met Joffrey Tilly. I could say his name on that. It's no beef on my behalf. I met Joffrey Tilly, and I told him that like, yo, I want to put a store in Harlem. I got a spot. I know I can do it. And he's like, what? Show me. But he was my sales rep, so I didn't fully trust him. A lot of people you talk to, they'll take your idea and do it themselves, but never allow you around the way. But he kept pressing me. He was on it. So one day he picked me up in a smart car from Brooklyn, and we drove to Harlem. And I show him a space under my grandmother's building, and he looks around. He's like, oh yeah, this that we could really do something here. Shit could get really crazy here. So sorry, I keep cursing. Things can get really crazy here, and we put in motion. He got the money from his side, and then he found another spot where Pompetta is today, and we put belt to uh, butt, as the kids would say, to make Pompette happen, and it happened before Pompette too, which made it even a better popular selling point. While I was at uh, Dry Dock, again, shout out to Ron and Mary, they pushed my wine education. They paid for me to go to WSET level 2 and level 3. It was like a trade, not even a trade off. They paid for me to do that, and I did it. Now, I hold 2 awards. Shout out to May. I don't know if you're watching, but May's I see it to this day. She was my teacher, and so from there, had that knowledge, opened up a retail store in Harlem, and it was like, all right, I went through, oh, okay. Yes, the producers are telling me to talk to y'all. I'm rambling. Listen, I can talk forever. 10 minutes open chat for questions. So please, if you have any questions, I'll definitely check in. I'm gonna just finish this quick story, and then I will. So yeah, we opened up Palm Pet 20, 2015, and we put the work to make it happen. Uh, I then I then moved on. I forgot what I was saying before that. To what I was going at when I talk about Ron WSCT with this knowledge of education, it made it a privilege to teach the neighborhood finally, teach my people finally about wine, and I had the knowledge. So one thing about when we created the store, we never had big brands when we first started opening up. We didn't buy Hennessy or Ciroc or any commercial because it was more so once you come in here, you come into a store to buy something. Once you come in here, we're going to sell you something. So people will come in and be like, yo, I'm looking for Hennessy. But I don't got Hennessy, but Hennessy is a cognac made from grapes. Well, I got this, and I'll point them in another direction. And because of me, I will say, people trusted me. They trusted my palate. They trusted my expertise. They bought the product, and it changed. They was like, you know what? I don't drink this no more. So we had a niche lane to where we were able to uh, finite and educate the people, right? So rose is popular in Harlem. We take big responsibility. We take, when I say we, I talk about myself, but I'm talking about. That's what's up. All right, I'm gonna go. Let's get some questions, please. Oh, what's the best type of wines for vegans? Vegan wines are the best type of wines for vegans. Uh, the vegan wines are the best type of wines for vegans. Light red, depending on what you eat. So someone asked me the other day how many calories are in wine. So usually probably like 117 calories in a bottle of wine. Wine doesn't have that on its bottle, but it will definitely uh, have that because it's all about the sugar content. And depending if you're drinking a sweet white wine, which will have more sugar, which will mean it's going to have more calories, versus dry white wine. So far, it's with the reds. So far, it's with the reds. Is there any more questions before I can keep scrolling? I'm seeing everything there. Make sure I can see everything. Yeah. So what got me started? Good question. I mean, I never really liked wine. So Ben Wood and Oscar Garcia, they in a way, after I read the book, kind of forced me to drink wine. They try to force me to drink wine. To not force me, they poured me samples. I sipped them and I enjoyed them. Back to where I was saying we did well with Pompet selling different brands, and I had the level of knowledge to educate the people. And it's all about educating the people because I'm all about knowing what you're putting in your body. We blindly drink things without even knowing what they are. We just legacy, right? So one thing what I plan to accomplish with this show is to have everyone come with a different perspective to wine, knowing what they're drinking and understanding, not being blindly loyal, right? So you drink it, but don't be blindly loyal to a brand. So this first episode, I'm telling you who I am and what I'm about, and hoping that we can build this connection as we go on this journey. The next episode is going to be about wine misconceptions, and there's a lot of misconceptions. For example, people don't think black people don't drink wine, and we've been drinking wine, whether good or bad, for a long time. You know, Moet has been a pillar in our community. Taylor Port is a pillar in our community, unfortunately. Manischewitz, a pillar in our community. Right? So these are all different types of wine that people are indeed drinking. So Bontanora is another one. And from the Pompet, I created a online subscription service, Wines by Mozel, where I delivered wines directly to your house. I created a consulting company. I fell in love with John Tapper and what he did. And I felt like not that I know more than him, but I know the industry after being working in the field. So, uh, doing I created a consulting company to do John Tapper work. I'll go in, I'll evaluate a place. During my wine career, I worked at various restaurants. I had the opportunity to see the service industry and the love and respect I have for the service industry. 2015, I became a certified sommelier. What that means is that I have a wine knowledge. I can be an educator. It also means if I'm working in a restaurant, I know a level of service and how to pair wine with food. The sommelier title, ideally, is usually with restaurants. However, it's so vast now. You could be a retail store sommelier. You could not even work in a restaurant at all. You could just be a person that goes to tastings and write articles and still consider yourself a sommelier. It's all about whether you're actively servicing and working with the people. I believe we got 4 minutes left, in this live. Again, please don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon. Wine and why not? A few why nots I could give you. One thing people will say, can you put ice in your wine? Why not? I wouldn't recommend it, but if it's for you, get your go crazy, go crazy. Another why not is, can you chill your red wines? Why not? You absolutely can chill your red wines. I think so. I think we drink our red wines too much, too dry, too hot. I mean, at the wrong temperature. Our white wine's a little too cold. So try to reverse that, and you'll have a great experience. Lastly, another why not? Can you wear cologne when you're tasting wine? Why not? Just make sure it's not overpowering because it will affect your nose because you're not tied out of chin. You'll be smelling your cologne and mixing it with what you think the wine smells like. So as we wrap up, this is the first episode of Wine and Why Not. Please subscribe to the Patreon. Please follow us on TikTok. Please follow us on Instagram. Wine and Why Not. I'm the Wine God. All the Patreon subscribers, there's bonus content coming. There's about another 15 minutes of me talking, really getting deep diving. So continue being great and why we trust.